Hello everyone, this is Vivienne, and the weather outside today is really beautiful here, so I thought that I'd take the opportunity to make an outdoor video. And what I want to talk about today is basically how right now, with everything that's going on, it's just not the time to be a lady. And by that I mean, being a lady generally in this society, it implies being polite, being nice, a lot of the times, holding your tongue and just sitting there looking pretty, not saying anything, and just, because you want people to like you, you go along to get along, and, this applies to everyone. Men do this as well, but I would say that this is a bigger problem for women, because this is how we are taught to be generally. Like, as little girls, you're to be seen and not heard generally. Yeah, I know it was like that for me, where I was almost afraid even to ask questions, like when I was in school and stuff. When I was younger and in school, I if I actually had a question about whatever the teacher was saying, I wouldn't, raise my hand and ask it. I would just keep my mouth shut. And also, a lot of times I wouldn't raise my hand to answer questions that were asked of us in the class, the students and everything. And I think that's a problem. So I'm not saying that this applies to necessarily all women. People could have different circumstances, but I notice this is a general trend just that I've seen, like I said, in my own life and with other women. I know right now I have no female friends anymore left. I used to have some, not a lot, just not a lot of friends in general, regardless of gender. But I found that all of my female friends that I did have, the few that I had, were very fake. They were very fake people. And, because it's just like putting up this facade of something that you're not. And again, it stems a lot of the time from wanting people to like you. It's also wanting to avoid conflicts with others. And I'm like that too. I don't like to have conflict with others or confrontation. I usually shy away from that. But right now, it's just, we can't be doing this. Like, we can't just go along to get along, and, because things are freaking crazy right now, right? And we can't just sit back and allow this to happen. We can't just sit here, look cute, and be like, oh, okay, everything's fine. It's not World War III or whatever. But yeah, because it's, there's nothing wrong with looking cute or looking nice. There's nothing wrong with that, but there has to be way more that you care about, and you have to actually stand up for yourself and also for others too. And I know that it's difficult because I, like I said, do not like confrontation at all and try to avoid it. But there comes a point where you need to really fight back And again, I don't mean physically necessarily, unless it comes down to that, which it might. So in that case, you should know how to defend yourself properly without anyone else's help. And also, you should not rely on anyone. I know a lot of women who are very, very much dependent and relying on like their boyfriends, their husbands, or whatever. And like, honey, you can't rely on them. You can't. The only person that you can fully rely on is yourself, hopefully. Okay, I know some people are very flaky even when it comes to themselves and keeping promises to themselves. They don't do that. And that needs to be addressed. Like, if you make a promise to yourself, you should keep that promise. It's very important. Because I mean, I've said this in a previous video that, like, yes, I do have trust issues. If you want to like pathologize my outlook on things, I do have trust issues, but it's well deserved. Like, you know, it's for a reason, basically, why I have that, because I've had tons of shit happen in my life where it proves that other people cannot be trusted. They are not to be trusted, especially at this time, because I have personally seen with what's going on now and with the shots that people are getting. I'm really being very serious about this, and I'm not kidding. I have seen insane personality changes. Like, it's just like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, these people really are under some kind of mind control or some kind of program, it seems to me, because some of the things that I've seen and experienced are just hard to explain any other way. And you know what I talked about in my video about is this what humanity has come to, where, you know, I lost a friend who I thought was more or less normal and genuine. Yeah, but she's totally programmed, and you know, she's gotten the shot, fully shot up, and I was disinvited to her birthday party last month when she found out that I wasn't. And like, I mean, again, I'm not upset about it, so I don't want to hear it. I'm just bringing it up as an example of things that have happened that are just like, what the fuck. And yeah, it is hard to find real, genuine people these days, regardless of gender, again. But with the whole idea of being a lady and being submissive to whatever is going on, just doing what people say because you want to be nice, you want people to say, oh yeah, you know, Vivienne, she's such a nice young lady, she's always so nice, so sweet. And people have said that about me, but like, people have also called me horrendous names when I actually have stood up for myself and fought back against things. Like, this is not necessarily related to all that's going on right now, but a few years ago, I went out on one date with this guy that I met online on a dating site, which I don't recommend at all. That I just don't recommend online dating, to be honest, based on my experiences and the experiences of others that I've spoken to. Just, this guy was completely out of line. Like, he wanted me to be intimate with him, like in public, basically, you know, like, he wanted me to kiss him, to hold hands with him, just be all lovey-dovey. Like, what the fuck? I just met this guy, right? We both just met each other, and we had no prior communication at all, period, other than some exchanges on the dating app and then some texting, you know, just logistical stuff about, like, you know, meeting up, right? Because you just don't want to waste too much time on that. Like, you want to meet the person, right? That's what I thought at the time. And yeah, he's wanting me to be all lovey-dovey on him, and just putting his hands on me, like, and I said stop. I'm like, just stop. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, why are you doing this? I just fucking met you. And he started yelling at me. He went beyond calling me a bitch. He called me a see you next Tuesday, which, if you don't know what that is, that's an acronym for one of the worst things that a woman can be called. Typically, it's seen as one of the worst things that you could call a woman. So I'm not going to say the word, but I know you know what I mean. I know you're all smart enough to understand. And so I was offended, but, you know, even though it wasn't good, it wasn't nice to hear that, like, oh, Vivienne, you're like, he actually calls me like a retarded see you next Tuesday, because I didn't want to do what he wanted to do. And this fucking dude is lucky that I didn't slap him hard across the fucking face, because that's what I felt like doing. But I didn't do that. I didn't resort to any physical confrontation, but I did stand up for myself verbally, and of course physically I pulled myself away from him, and it was like, you know, stop, move back up away from me, right? And yeah, so it wasn't nice to be yelled at and called a few very unpleasant things. Didn't like it, didn't feel good. But wasn't it better for me to have said something and stood up for myself than to have allowed him to do whatever and just go along to get along and, like, you know, want him to like me, which would make no sense because I couldn't stand him. Very, very bad energy. And, you know, I ended up walking away from him and blocking him, you know, on my phone, on the dating app, everything, so that he couldn't ever contact me again. And so, like, he actually wanted me to, in addition to what I described previously, he wanted me to get into his car and for him to drive us back to his apartment. And, like, again, I just met him. And this guy was really a psycho. Really, this was probably the most psycho guy that I have ever gone out on a date with. And, you know, I was like, no. But imagine if I had, like, just gone along and been like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Just, yeah, I'm gonna get in your car. We're gonna go to your apartment and whatever. And I shudder to think what would have happened then with this kind of psycho. So right now, the majority of society is like this guy in many ways, you know, being very forceful and commanding us to go along with everything that they're doing. We cannot do this. We just can't. We can't. We have to find it within ourselves to like actually maybe be a bitch sometimes and not care if other people call us a bitch and think we're a bitch, or call us, see you next Tuesday, or whatever other dumb words they want to call us, whatever insults they want to hurl at us. If they want to call us a Karen, that's another thing, the whole Karen thing, where a woman is essentially being assertive. So the problem is, there really are Karens who complain to the manager about everything that they think is wrong or whatever, just like ridiculous things. That's what I think of as really a Karen. But I've seen a lot in the news and on my social media that Karen is being applied to women who don't want to wear a mask, are against vaccines, and stand up for themselves and for their children. They don't want their children to wear a mask in school. That's a whole nother thing. And that's just really messed up. And you know what? It doesn't even matter if someone thinks that you're a Karen or whatever. Who really cares what some fucker thinks? I don't care anymore. I used to, because we're so conditioned as women to really, really so care about what other people think and to fit in. I think it's more of an issue with women, like I said, than with men. Because with men, if a man is a lone wolf and just goes out and just does his own thing and says, fuck society, in many ways, he's respected, I think. But for women, it's kind of what's wrong with you? You're not normal. You're gonna, whatever, you're like a spinster, you're gonna end up an old maid. You can't be a lone wolf as a woman. It's just, you can be, but I just think it's not as accepted by this society. And I mean, we're at the point where my opinion really is not just, I don't care what individual people think of me anymore, but what society as a whole thinks of me. If they want to just insult me and attack me or whatever, and just hurl all of this negativity at me, whatever, I'm just fuck them. Who cares? Because I know that what I'm doing right now is right, and what they're doing is wrong as all hell. So when somebody wants to, not just wants to, but is, putting a mask on their 1-year-old baby because she thinks that that's right to do, I'm not gonna be oh yeah, just because I know you and you're my relative, yeah, I'm not gonna be oh, that's totally fine, that's totally okay. No, I'm gonna be excuse me, you're literally abusing your child by putting a mask on an infant. You're what person in a normal state of mind is going to put a face covering and restrict the breathing of an infant? You have to be so fucked in your head to even consider doing that. And there are no excuses for that. And I'm not going to tolerate any excuses for that kind of shit. And neither should you. Whether you are male or female, I don't care. You need to call that fucking shit out as soon as you see it, because that is not okay. Okay, you know what? If an adult wants to suffocate themselves with a muzzle, it's not great. It's not great, but it's their choice. They're old enough to make that choice for themselves. But children, and especially a 1-year-old baby, right? The baby is innocent and can't make its own decisions, and just, the baby is relying on the parents, and for them to be making good decisions for her, or just any babies, not just this particular one. I'm bringing up this specific example because this is, somebody that I know is doing this, has been actively doing this pretty much since the baby was born into this world and suffocating her. Okay? So, I'm not saying that I have all the answers about what I can do about that or what someone else can do about it, but I have not, just gone along with it. I've said over the phone, I've told her, and her mother too, by the way, that this is fucking wrong. And like, what are you even doing? Where is your brain? Where is your fucking soul ugh. So this is the kind of shit that triggers me. And this should trigger you too. Like seeing this kind of garbage, this kind of abuse, that should trigger everyone. And so my point is that, like, you might feel somewhat triggered if someone comes out and insults you, calls you names and all of that, gives you a bad attitude. But that shouldn't even be triggering at this point. You should just be like, fuck that, okay? And the real shit that's going on now, that's what should trigger you into actually taking action in some way, shape, or form, being assertive, okay? Not just sitting back and allowing it to all happen. So, because everyone has both feminine aspects of themselves and masculine aspects of themselves in their personality and their being. And there has to be some kind of balance. Obviously, women are generally going to embody more of the feminine aspects, and men are going to embody more of the masculine aspects, although right now with men, I think that a lot of them are actually in the dark feminine aspects of themselves, the ones who are submitting to everything. And the ones who are in power are in the dark masculine aspects of themselves. So, because we have both dark and light, or dark and divine, feminine and masculine qualities, so you definitely want to embrace the divine, the light aspects. But that's not really what's happening now. And yeah, I mean, you really can't be okay with what's happening right now. And so I know a lot of people might be, well, it's still the minority of people overall in the world are okay, are, maybe not okay with it on the inside, but they're, I hear some people coming. I hate when this happens. But they're not, even though they might not be okay with it on the inside, they're still going along with everything. They're still complying, right? Okay, this is annoying. There's people here. I'm just gonna wait a little bit while they pass. And you could just look at the scenery right here because it's a beautiful day. It's very nice. A nice September day. And hi. There's some dogs here. Oh, they're cute. There's 3 cute dogs. So, yeah, I don't want to say what I was going to say because I don't want them to hear me. But, that's another thing too. It's kind of a problem. Why do I even care, right? Goes back to all the conditioning. So that just proves my point. Even though I've tried my best to fight against my conditioning to be a nice young lady, I still have work to do myself. But I've gotten a lot better at it. And yeah, like, you don't have to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. But we cannot comply with what's going on. We can't consent to it. And I know some people want to say that it's about your intention and like what you feel on the inside. If you're internally not complying with it and internally not consenting to it, but you actually have to manifest that into action, into what you're actually doing. And yeah, it's not enough to just have that as your intention on the inside. Okay, again, if you see abuse, like someone putting a mask on a baby, you should call that out. Or if you see, this is also something that I hate, when I see people who are pulling their dogs on the leash, you know what I mean? They yank them really hard, and that pisses me off. And like, because it's not necessary, you know what I mean? Like, why are you hurting your dog like that? Don't you care about your dog? Why would you want to hurt your dog? And I think a lot of people don't care. They're just like, maybe they're in a rush or whatever, and they just yank the dog with the leash. And that's wrong. That needs to be called out too. So it's whatever kind of abuse that you see, not just pertaining to people. But yeah, I hate animal abuse too, not just child abuse, or just abuse of all kinds. And the verbal abuse that you might experience if you assert yourself and stand up for yourself, it's not nearly as bad as the kind of abuse that's going on. Like, I'm a big girl, I can handle myself. If someone calls me, "I'll see you next Tuesday," I'd be like, okay, cool, great, that's what you think of me. It says more about them than it says about you if someone calls you that. But yeah, so it doesn't really matter, like, because this is coming down to, what's happening right now is coming down to physical, psychological, and spiritual abuse. And it is not okay at all. At all. And those are more serious than verbal abuse. Even though verbal abuse, again, is not great, it's not nice. But yeah, you shouldn't care about being ostracized at this point. I know I really don't. The only thing that I care about when it comes to the rest of society is basically when it comes to work and like jobs, basically being able to work and have a job to support myself financially. In that kind of situation, you might want to behave yourself in a certain way, but that still doesn't mean complying with everything, right? If your employer is requiring the shot and other things where they're violating your bodily autonomy and any other kind of autonomy, you need to stand up against that shit. And you might want to look into other work and job opportunities where you don't have to put up with that shit. Like, I'm working from home this whole time, so luckily what's going on with a lot of people in their jobs and workplaces is not affecting me as much anymore, because, you know, working from home, I'm not required to muzzle myself, and at least for right now, they're not requiring proof of the shot for working from home. So there are options. There are, with the internet and everything, that's one of the really big benefits of the internet. And so, yeah, basically this whole notion of having to be a lady at all times is irrelevant, especially right now. We shouldn't care about wanting to be a lady or even a gentleman when it comes to it. No. You have to be a fierce bitch these days, okay? Sometimes it's necessary, okay? Like, I don't like being mean to people or anything like that, or being nasty, but other people have been nasty towards me and towards other people, right? So it's about standing up for yourself and not taking any shit from other people. And that's also another thing that I wanted to say, is that even when it comes to using like harsh language, like cursing, swearing, using those kinds of words, that's also generally seen as not being ladylike. And a lot of people do have a problem with that. They have a problem with it when men do it, but I feel like a lot of people especially have a problem with it when sun, we have sun now, sun shining, but yeah, so it's sort of seen as even more of a problem when women use such language. And I used to try to like hold that back and not use that kind of language myself, but you know what it is? It's being authentic, right? If that's how you feel, if that's what you want to say, if you want to say fuck everything, fuck it all, fuck you, fuck the system, fuck everything, fuck society. And if you want to say that, if that's how you feel, say that, because again, it's genuine and there's power in those words. And you shouldn't be afraid that someone's gonna be like, oh, she said this, she's not a lady, she's whatever word or insult they want to use to describe you. So, because yeah, shit's getting really serious. It's literally getting more serious by the day. And just, we need to end this. And the way that we end this is by all collectively asserting ourselves and, being in our power and pushing back against this and taking actions against this. Okay? So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say today. And yeah, it is really nice out today. So yeah, because I was worried that I wouldn't get a chance to make a video outside again because I was worried it might be too cold, but it's not. It's like 75 today. But I am sorry for the interruption that happened with the people and the dogs barking, but things happen, right? That's because I'm outside here in the woods. See, I like to come out here because usually there's nobody here. Like when I'm here, mostly every time that I'm here, there's like no one else here. And now there happen to be a couple of people, of course, when I'm making a video. But anyway, yeah, I hope you got something out of this video, and you will see me next time.